Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us today for the exciting masterclass on Spec-Driven Development in AI brought by the IoT Academy. The IoT Academy offers industry-focused certification courses in IoT embedded system, artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, Python, and digital marketing, both online and offline mode. For long-term certification courses, our academy has collaborated with the top institutes such as IIT Roorkee, IIT Guwahati, IIT Jodhpur, and IIT Kanpur. In this session, we'll learn how to move from the writing code randomly, which is a modern approach first help AI generate better results, reduce rework, and improve development speed. You'll see the real-world examples of structure workflows using text into purpose-driven development and how this approach supports critical maintenance and production-ready systems. Now let's welcome our expert speaker with this brief introduction. This masterclass is presented by Mr. Vaibhav Lubrial, who is the co-founder and chief product officer of LUMIQ, a leading FSI data and analytics specialist focused on advancing and product development. With a proven track record of delivering multi-million-dollar initiatives across Europe, the Middle East, Australia, Southeast Asia, and the United States, he is deeply committed to driving innovation in AI and data. We are thrilled to have you all here. So, without any further ado, let's begin today's sessions. Over to you, Vaibhav, sir.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Vaibhav Lubrial. It would help if you could keep your chats and your sessions open. I like interactive sessions. So just a quick bit of introduction. I have been into IT for close to 20 years now. So I started from the ranks of being a developer myself, though I was not into hardcore coding. I'm more of a data, and then transformed into AI some 20 years back. Not 20, some 13 years back. Okay. I have been playing with early days of coding with AI, and vibe coding and then spec-driven development. Those are the two things that are very core and very I'm deeply involved with. Now, why this session and what I wanted to have with this session is if you guys can leave out your experience on the chat quickly, it will help me understand that what backgrounds you come from. Is there anybody who doesn't have development experience in this group? A quick poll would help. And second thing that would help, if you can put that on the chat. And then the second is any one of you having more than 10 years, 15 years of experience? That would also help, so that I can with that, what I will do is I'll wait for you guys to put that on the chat, and then I'll bring up my screen, and then we will get into the core and crux of our session. So I have planned this. Okay, give me 30 seconds. Let me bring up my screen. Okay. Sorry, I have too many windows just collapsing. View. And we can keep the session interactive. You can share your questions as they come. I'm okay. Don't mind being interactive. Don't treat this as a classroom, please. Okay, here we go. Share screen. Okay. Now, where is my window? Okay. So my screen is visible, I hope. Can somebody please confirm?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah. So what are we going to discuss today? Really just 3 items. One is we need to look back into software development. We speak briefly about waterfall and agile. I'm sure you guys are already conversant with that. Then we go into this whole paradigm of coding with AI. Then we talk about briefly about vibe and spec-driven development. What is the difference? And then we do a live session. Okay. So without much this thing, um, is there anybody who's not from software development? Can somebody put that up? Do I access chat on this? Yeah. Uh, Can you guys please put information that I requested so that it's easier for me to relate to those guys? Guys, it will not help if it's a one-way session. I'm not a one-way kind of a guy. I'm not a teacher. Okay. So uh, it will help if you guys can put that somebody is not from IT and if there is somebody who has more than 10, 15 years of experience. But anyways, with that, I'll jump into the crux of the conversation. So before we get into vibe coding or spec-driven development, right, what we need to understand is why we got into where we are. See, essentially, software engineering started as civil engineering, right? I'm sure many of you would have seen a house getting constructed. Uh, why it runs this way is because the cost of change is very high, right? Let's say you were planning to have uh, it rains a lot and you wanted to have a slanted roof, and instead if you build a flat roof, right, the cost of changing it would be very high. That pressure and that mindset came from civil engineering, and then it got into the whole of IT in general, right? Why? Because modifying code after deployment was very expensive and risky. And what helps visualize is something which is no longer relevant today. The physical media, monolithic recompilations, how you would move the code from, let's say, from a lower environment to a higher environment. Now, the industry was optimizing for something called predictability because it was too expensive to change. Correct? Now, when something is too expensive to change, what do? Right? What we try to do, spend more time in planning. We try to get more details before we get started. Correct? That what was essentially happening. And that's how we got into this waterfall model, right? Many people call it from various names. Your standard STLC, probably you guys would have been taught this in college as well, right? So the idea was that we'll do requirement analysis first, spend a lot of time, write the spec, right? The BIDs. Now, the whole idea was before we get into what we are getting into, we have a clear understanding of what we are going to build. So you would get your SMEs, you will get your business experts, and you would ask all of them to write good specs for you, right? This is where almost 20 to 30% of your time was spent, and the expectation was that you spend a lot of time there so that you can reduce and minimize your surprises that will come during the later stages of the project. Now, once this was done, there was considerable time that was spent on writing system on doing design. Right now, there was functional design, there was technical design, there was system design, there was network planning. Everything that you were trying to do is write. How your database schema would look like, what would be a front end, what would be a back end, what would be a technology, how the screen would look like. So even before we wrote a single line of code, right, we were getting into knowing how everything will work. And what we were also doing is taking along key stakeholders so that we can minimize these surprises. So essentially, if you have to visualize, right, think of it like this, that the cost of failure was too high, right? So we were trying to do everything to get into that predictable mindset. Then came implementation. This is where we were doing actual coding, which was translation basically of what you had designed in a previous stage into a syntax. Now, as soon as that was available, uh, uh, you know everything else started coming together. Now, once we closed that stage, the testing was also very simple: verification and maintenance. Correct? Testing against original documents, original plan. Your test cases were also being written post after requirement. You would have heard the terms like requirement traceability matrix and everything. So basically, the whole waterfall story was pinned down on few facts. I spoke about predictability, the cost of failure being very high, deviation from spec being very expensive. So it provided a single source of truth. Okay. Now, what also happened is the spec was the king in this, right? And if the code deviated from the spec, the code was wrong. Correct. Now, this this works well, but in order to bring a change, it was very, very expensive and very, very slow. Now imagine this, right? let's say you are running a business or you build a software, correct? Now even 6 months is a very, very long time, right? Your requirements change. When your requirements change, how do you handle that? Because you cannot take that up. There was no way of changing, changing something while the cycle was in play. Because if you want to change something, you have to follow the whole cycle. So it was not possible to change or experiment at all. And the nature of the business is that experimentations is where everything runs. Okay. I'm just reading the comments so that I relate to you guys better. Okay. Okay, I get an idea. So, any questions until now? Everybody is clear why we started with waterfall or traditional software development life cycle, and how it relates to keeping the cost down and bringing more predictability into the system. Now, as we moved forward, what started happening was that as we started moving forward, what started happening was the cost, it became easier to change things primarily because to change in technology. And what happened was that, the agile was born. Now, the agile manifesto or, the whole thought process behind the agile was that, our working software is the top priority. The specs or everything was was not really, and it failed down to a mindset. It tried to move into a paradigm where it simply meant that we want to fail fast. What do you mean by fail fast? Fail fast simply means that if you have an idea, you want to implement that idea very fast, and if there is any failure while you implement, you do a course correction and you iterate again, right? So what it meant is that rather than doing big design upfront, right, spending months to understand requirements and design, we broke monolithic projects into smaller sprints, usually 2 week sprints. And then the focus was that we have something workable. So the idea was that we will be able to catch understand it better before we go all in, and then it becomes expensive to change, and then b keep a tighter alignment with business. Now, what happened is, while the velocity problem largely got solved, right? Because the documentation was deprioritized. And remember, I'm not talking about removal of documentation. That is a big takeaway that people have, that we will no longer document, which is not the intent of the agile at all. But the point was that spec moved from being the only source of truth and being written before into an embedded process. And what also started happening is not so detailed specs were being written, right? So tribal knowledge, or the collective knowledge of the group, is what everybody started working on. And the truth was acknowledged that because business requirements change, everything changes, the truth will keep on moving. Now, this worked fine when humans were the authors and everything was happening. But when we came into AI, right, what we thought is, oh, now because it's machines, we no longer need this. Right? So waterfall, predictive mindset, the whole idea was that we minimize costs. Then we got into a new mindset where we said agile, because it was not possible to fail fast. It was not possible to spend months, and it was the need for a change is faster. We choose velocity over predictability, not because primarily that we wanted to fail, but more importantly because the cost of change reduced dramatically. Right? Now, once that happened, many things started converging, right? One of the things that, so like I said, one of the things that started happening was we moved from spec was the king, optimized for predictability, high cost of change, right? Rigid guardrails, to a mindset where we said velocity became the new obsession. We have working software, we have documentations, which is not that detailed and everything. We optimized for speed and integration, and we moved down to a paradigm from months to 2 weeks, right? Now, this is what we call the pendulum of control, that we went from certainty to velocity. Okay? Now, what happened is, we got into what we call as the sugar rush of vibe coding after that. Okay, now what is this? What is this sugar rush of vibe coding? If I have to bring up, right? Vibe coding is that you started entirely relying on LLMs to generate code and iterating rapidly in a more agile manner until it feels right. Okay. Now let me bring up my other screen. Give me 30 seconds. Sorry, I have too many windows. I'm struggling to find the one I have logged in from. Oh, it's here. Okay. How many guys know about Notebook LM? You guys know about Notebook LM? Let me use some content that we have generated for this session, especially for guys who are in business already working. That is something that you should check out. Makes life much simpler. Share screen window. Should be visible. Okay. So you were talking about pendulum of control. Now, when sugar rush started happening, right? When people started vibe coding, by the way, this deck is also done with vibe coding. Okay. So, what you started doing is you wrote a prompt, then you generated a code. If there was a glitch, you tried to fix it then and there itself, right? Now, the problem with this whole logic is there's a dopamine rush. It's easy to start. You keep on getting into this loop. So there is instant gratification, a prototype in an afternoon that you could do, which would otherwise take a lot of time. But the process is quite random because there is no control, and I'll show you how that works when we go, right? Now, why vibe code failing? So, how are we doing vibe coding? Many of you would know there were tools like Replit. There are tools like Lovable. Even Kiro you can use for vibe coding. You could use Cursor for vibe coding. Even GitHub. Basically, Google has its own in AI Studio tools. But each one of them, what was happening was three essential things, right? One is the context decay, right? What happens is these LLMs have limited context that they can carry, right? They have fixed context windows, so you cannot feed everything. It's like, how much thing you can load in your mind and how much can you know when it's not nicely documented, right? So and as the chat grows, the models forget things, and that's where it starts going crazy, right? The new code can get away from initial spec that you started because it moved out of the spec window, right? So that is one of the biggest problems, because unlike humans, the models work on limited memory. Correct. Now, the second was architectural drift, because you are working on in isolation on small pages. Parts of the problems you didn't know what was happening, right? When you have a team, what happens is you have an architect in terms of spaghetti code is what will happen. You end up writing spaghetti code when people don't know. Even in real world projects, right? It gets into a situation where the code is not easy to integrate. Correct. Now, and then the bigger problem is that the maintenance trap is very painful, right? Humans, in case of vibe coding, because you're not writing the code, right? You don't read it. So you are only verifying the output. So the quality becomes questionable. There was no proper organization of how you worked. The context was perpetually leaking, right? And it was getting built up. We got into spaghetti code. And then without deeper understanding, we started fixing it up. Now, that is how spec-driven development was born, right? So in the old way of vibe, what we were doing was we were writing a prompt. From the prompt, we were moving to code straight away, correct? Then we said, no, this doesn't work because we have gotten away from the fact that rather than thinking, planning ahead, we need to get into that mindset of how humans work, right? So the new way of spec-driven development simply meant that, between moving from prompt to code directly, what we will do is we will get, a combination of waterfall rigor into the agile iteration. And by the way, this is not something which is dependent on machines. This is the same thing which was happening when people moved suddenly from waterfall to agile, right? You will see that the quality of specs, the amount of time you spend on design goes down, and hence the quality of deliverables. So to summarize, moving from prompt to code was the vibe way, right? But then when you start organizing it, it moves from specifications to planning to code, right? So the bottom line is we are combining the best of waterfall with the best of agile, right? That's the spec-driven development way. It's nothing new. The best of the AI works when it's closer to how humans imitate, right? Now I'm going to use Kiro. Why Kiro? I'm not sure if you guys know. Let me. Uh, you guys can see my complete screen, right? Can you see the Kiro? Or do I need to change? Someone confirm? Yeah, good. Okay. So why Kiro? I mean, there are multiple tools. I can show you multiple. So I was talking about Replit. Replit is another tool, right? You can start with an idea. You can build something. Many people have built many things, right? But like I said, the whole idea of Replit was more around the fact that it's a spec-driven this thing, right? Then you have Lovable AI. If you see, it is also similar, right? So these are, you write a prompt and you can start. Then you have tools like, Google also has tools, you have Cursor. You would have heard about Windsurf. Okay. So, right. So if you notice what is happening is on the left, you are writing your, prompts, and on the right, it's generating the code, right? Now, you can use any one of these tools, right? But if you notice, the all of these things start to matter when we get into, right, taking this code, thinking from a long-term perspective. And here, if you notice, the whole workflow of the Kiro goes down to the fact that, in terms of specs, we are following that grind. So you're writing your requirement first, then into design, and then into task, then executing it, right? So unfortunately, none of these tools are free, but again, they are not very expensive. If you consider the value they can develop. So what we are going to use today is Kiro for the session. And like I said, the focus here is that now let me bring up my Kiro also. Right. I need to seed a new project. Let's do some project here. Okay. We'll seed this project. Where did I create it? Yeah. So basically, I have initiated a project. Now, if you notice, there are two prompts that you get here, whether you want to wipe or whether you want to do a spec. Okay. So it also says that wipe is great for rapid exploration and testing, building when requirements are unclear, implementing a task. Spec is good when you are saying that plan first, then build, create requirements and design before coding starts. Okay. Thinking through features and deep projects requiring upfront planning, building features into art. Okay. Now, before I begin, I want to leave you with one more thought. The screen is visible, right? You can see the slide. See, what's essentially happening is vibe coding is all about sugar rush, correct? So what's happening is we are thinking fast, trying to convert it into code, right? There you can do a rapid iteration, but the problem is context decay. Decay is very harmful because what it means is you don't know what you're building, right? In most practical software world, we go towards spec-driven development. Spec-driven development is more about thinking of specs or requirements, planning, coding, right? Then you have a rigorous workflow where English is what runs the thing, right? So we are saying that, you can use walk for vibe mode exploration, though I don't use it for anything at all. I've realized that it doesn't work, at least for my level of complexity that I have on my mind, right? Run is when you want to use the spec, this thing, right? So most software is built for this. And then though Kiro can do both, right? We will focus on I will focus on showing you both and how it works, right? So vibe coding works from prompt to code straight away. Spec-driven development goes from prompt to spec to plan to code. Here you can do so-called prototypes and scripts, but here you can build complex production systems, which is actually what you want. The primary value is instant velocity, and here the primary value is having the right solution, right? Not just architectural integrity, but more alignment with the overall process. Now let's do this. Any questions until now? I can take questions before we jump into an actual session with Kiro. You can put your questions in Q&A, and also let's collect ideas. What do you guys want to build? We have about an hour. We can try building something. Any ideas that you are comfortable with whichever value you feel would be something? Throw me ideas. Let's see quickly. What do you want to build, guys? Put on the chat. Do you guys all know about stock market? Should we build something in stock market? Okay, put the ideas, no? Okay, what do you want to build? You want to see how to research on a stock, or what do you want to see? You want to see a portfolio analysis? What makes sense? See, unless you type it down, there'll be no fun, guys. I mean, it'll be a boring session, I can tell you that, okay? Let's go to Gemini. Okay, so what do you want to build? Let's start with, okay, let me start. Let's do vibe first, okay? See if it makes sense if you want me to make changes. Let's do a small app. Let's build a stock analysis app, which, how many of you guys know how to write a good prompt? Do you know about the structure of prompt writing, or do I need to share that first? Okay, how many of you know that when we talk about prompts, we have to do about role, then we have to talk about context. I mean, you can have these, then you have to talk about task, then you have to talk about format, you can talk about instructions. You know this framework? If not, you can follow. There are many courses online, but these help you work better. Usually the context comes first. My bad. So basically what you're telling is to any LLM that you're using is, hey, why the background of what you're trying to solve. Role is telling them that, for example, you are writing specs or you are trying to develop something. Task is the actual task that you want to do. Instructions is something, if you want them to follow in a certain way. And format is something, how you want the output to be organized. Okay. So context is we are trying to build a one-page stock recommendation app. We want to demonstrate the capability of vibe coding versus spec-driven development. I'll make it slightly bigger. I'm not sure if you guys are able to see it. Spec-driven development in about an hour. Okay, role. You are an architect with 20 years experience and good and helping professionals understand the difference between vibe coding and spec-driven development. Okay, task. Help me write a short prompt for initiating a vibe coding session for the app. Instructions, keep it short and crisp. I don't need any format for this. It will anyways be a okay. Write a short prompt. Yeah, guys, I always follow this format. It helps me structure my knowledge. All I'm going to do is use Gemini here to help me write a prompt, and then I'll take this prompt to Kiro and start working. Okay. I force Gemini to think in a certain way, but okay. Build a single page stock recommendation interface that feels modern and trustworthy. Okay. I need 3 features: a prominent search bar at the top for ticker symbols, a larger color-coded analyst rating gauge in the center, a simple price trend chart below. Use mock data for now. Focus entirely on the UI layout and visual polish first. Okay. Looks good. Let's go to Kiro. We have a vibe session. And here we go. Okay, so quick thing about Kiro, I don't know if you guys are using it. You can access your files there. You'll see as it works. I'm just initiating a new session. You can choose the model here. Opus is really good, but I don't think so. We need that level of complexity here. I've initiated a session. Once you do chat, because we are doing vibe, right? So see, it started working straight away. So it's the only sad thing about Kiro is you can work on only one thing at a time. You have to wait. Claude allows you to do parallel sessions on cloud. What happened? Are you guys having some issues? Guys, you can speak up. It's easier for me. Can you open up the mic for people? Are you guys not able to see? I'm getting confusing emojis. It's very complicated. Yeah, I see raised hands. Can you open the mic for everyone? Ashish. Ashish, you want to say something? Let's move to Abhishek. Abhishek also has a raised hand. It doesn't scroll automatically. That's my problem. There are lots of Q&A. No, sir, I think you are not sharing the entire screen. Okay. Oh, you guys are not able to see. My bad. Entire screen.
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
गुड मॉर्निंग सर
Good morning.
सर बोल रहे हैं कि आपका स्क्रीन विजिबल नहीं था पीछे से
समझ गया. चलो मैं दोबारा से बता देता हूँ. Okay, I'll start again so that
Thank you, sir.
you guys are clear, right? What I was saying was, and keep the mic open here. Whoever raises their hand, please keep the mic open. Otherwise, we just waste the time. I don't know what you guys were able to see and what you were not able to see. Did you see this?
Sir.
Is this visible?
Yes, sir, visible.
Okay. Then I spoke about the difference between the two. Then what I did was I wrote a small prompt. Okay, this is what I meant. that the prompt basically when you want to write a prompt, the prompt has 5 things. It should have a context, it should have a role, it should have a task, it can have instructions, and it can have format. Okay. What I was doing was I started the Kiro. Okay, I have to start all over again so that you guys can see it. Okay, and I'm not sure if you guys were able to see the different things that I was showing, but wait, let me show you. So I showed you the Kiro homepage. That's why I was asking whether Kiro is available. So this is where Kiro is, and I was speaking about requirements design task MD, right? So it's not free, but you can experience it here. And then I was talking about Replit tools like, so this is Replit. Replit is also a vibe coding this thing. So if you notice, app design, what they're asking you to do is, you can write a prompt. There is Lovable. There are many. There is Cursor. I was showing you all these. Why I was showing is you can pick any of these things. But the point is they lie in 2 categories. You write, most of them are vibe coding when they say you write a prompt and then we'll build the app. Okay. Here in this case, what I chose was I chose Kiro. And in Kiro, what I've done is I initiated a new session. Okay, let me close this. So all you need to do is create a folder. I created a folder, then I gave it a prompt. I took this prompt which I had written, correct? I went into Gemini. I asked Gemini that I want to do this, right? We are trying to build a one-page stock recommendation app. We want to demonstrate the capability of vibe coding versus spec-driven development. You are an architect, right? With this experience, help me write a short prompt. Okay. Then I took it here. It wrote a vibe coding prompt for me. I took that vibe coding prompt, put it inside Kiro. If you notice it's here, I'll make it slightly bigger so that it's visible. And then I'll create a modern polished stock recommendation. That design uses this thing, right? So it has something. Let's ask it further. The designer, okay. Then the interface, I have created a modern recommendation. Okay. And the design uses the dark. Okay. Open index in your browser to see it in action. Wow. It claims that it has already done it. So let's see. Can you bring? Okay. We can open this in browser straight away. Okay. Control T, file open. Work. Kiro, IoT Academy. Okay. So it says that it has done a prototype of the app. But this is what we had on our mind when we asked it to create, right? And it's saying you can do a search. So I can put Apple, right? We didn't have this on our mind, right? AAPL. Okay. AAPL. But this is not what we had on our mind, correct? When you are building. This is not what we wanted, correct? It's straight away giving me recommendation. There is nothing. My screen is visible, right, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you notice, it didn't do what I was expecting it to do. Now we can try iterating it, right? I can go back to Kiro. Okay. I want more information on how the stock was recommended. Show me that. Okay. Now it will start making changes. So it's saying that I'll add a detailed section breakdown showing analysis behind the rating. This will include key metrics, analyst insights, blah, blah, blah. Right. So what I'm iteratively trying to ask it to do things, right? Now, if I come back to Kiro, it can also show you what changes it is making. So it's adding new components here. Okay. It will bring some more changes. But again, if you notice, right, it is starting to work with its own assumptions without clearly understanding what it is expected to do, which is a big problem, right? So if we go back to the page and if we see the page, right, it would make changes to this page. Yeah, so it started doing recommended analysis for me. Yet to complete, right? So it's still working. Okay. See, So it's put so much of data, it's putting that blah, 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 this is the ratio, right? But my point is, were you guys expecting this to be built? It decided on your behalf what it wants. Why does it have an empty space here, right? So I am not happy with it, right? Now, means and this is same, like let's say you have a brilliant developer in your team. You ask them that I want to build, what did we tell it? We told that I want to build a single page stock recommendation interface that feels modern and trustworthy. Think Bloomberg meets Robinhood, right? I need three visual elements. Prominent search bar at the top for ticker symbols, a large color analyst rating gauge, a simple price trend chart. Use mock data for now. I mean, we could link to the data also. That's okay, right? And then we said, I want more information how the stock was recommended. So it's filling information as it feels fit. Now that doesn't happen in production, right? If you want, I mean that doesn't happen. We don't want this kind of a vague interpretation of things, right? So instead, what I could have, let's take the same example, right? What we could have done is we could have broken it down, right? And how do you broke it down? Let me show you that. Okay. So we'll take the same prompt as a starting point. We'll see it one more project. Okay. Let me go back. Oops. IoT. Let's create one more folder. IoT2. Okay. And then I'll ask it to Kiro to open this file. Open folder. Open. Okay. Now what we'll do is we'll take the same prompt, same starting point. Okay. But now instead of wipe, I'm asking it to choose spec. Okay. I'll take the whole, not this one. We have to take what the Gemini wrote for us, right? So we go here. Okay. I put the same prompt, nothing else. Now notice what happens. Okay. See what it wrote. I will help you create a specification for the stock recommendation interface. Let me start by gathering requirements, then guide you through the design process. Right? Okay. It's visible, right? So basically, you're doing collaborative development now instead of doing one-way development. Okay. Now see what has happened. Let me show you. So it has written a spec for us, right? And the best part is we can decide to make changes to this spec. We can control whatever we want, right? And it has not done anything yet, right? So if you notice, it has written 7 points. This document specifies the requirement for a single page stock recommendation, Bloomberg's professional aesthetic with Robinhood's modern approachability, the interface displays stock information, ticker, analyst rating. So you can now start visualizing what is happening, right? A glossary is okay. Ticker symbol, right? Okay. Now let's say I don't want this, right? It didn't even ask me which market I want, right? I want this to focus on Indian stock market, correct? Now, if you notice, it will not go into changing anything beyond requirements at this page, right? Now, if you notice, it would have, yeah. So if we follow, these are the changes that it is bringing, right? So when I asked it to do, this is requirement of for the Indian stock market, right? And then notice that it's saying that alphabetic identifier for a public traded stock instead of Apple, Google, it moved to Indian exchanges, example, Reliance, TCS, right? For NSE and BSE, correct? And then if we look at changes, right? I want to search for a ticker, I can view recommendation. So I want to search for Indian stock. See, notice I asked it to make a small change that you bring the context to India. Rather than executing, going into making those changes, it's following a logical process of first analyzing that how our requirements will change in this process, right? So for those who can notice, right, what it's showing is what it removed and what it added, right? This is more like a diff that typically happens, right? So, and this is our final preview of requirements that we have, right? So it's saying that it should have a search bar. You can search, right? Search bar shall be prominently displayed when a user types a ticker symbol. This is what happens when a user submits a wallet. UI should display corresponding stock information, right? A user want to see a clear analyst rating for a stock so that I can quickly understand investment recommendation. Then again, what is required? So remember what I was saying, approaching something like, building a house. What it's saying is what is the story, what is the acceptance criteria, then price trend visualization, right? As a user, I want to see the price trend chart, mock data integration, correct? Because we said that, start with mock data, visual design aesthetics, right? Feel modern and trustworthy. You can even give it an inspiration from anywhere that you want, right? Responsive layout, right? Then it's saying that it should work on multiple devices, and then component integration, right? So you can specifically ask. So what happened is when we were doing vibe coding, Kiro itself, right? It's the same tool. It designed everything even before giving me an opportunity to detail and to understand how and this thing we want, right? In this case, I have a clear opportunity to look at the requirements even before something happens, right? And that's how I'm doing a top-down collaboration. If you notice, we will do requirements here, then we will do design. Right now, the design is empty. The task list is empty, right? So now what it's expecting me is that if you are okay, if you are done with your requirements, let's move to design phase. Okay. Any questions until now? You can visualize the benefit of this approach, right? How it will help all of us, because we have more control and more understanding of what we are building. Now, once you are done with your changes, all you have to do is click on move to design phase. Once you go to design phase, what it will start doing is focusing on the design, right? So it's saying that, okay, you can put questions on Q&A, or you can request for the mic to be opened, and then your mic can be opened. I'm okay either way. Okay. So if you notice now, what's happening is, yes, somebody has a question. Can you open the mic, please? It's still working. So now I need to use the rework tool to analyze acceptance criteria before writing the correctness properties section, right? So it's doing the design for us.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi sir. Good morning. So while making the corrections when you were doing something, so the screen was not visible. So I think most of us couldn't see that part when you update the requirements.
It's visible now, right? You can just edit the requirements here. Okay, so I'll show you what I did. So
Okay.
this is the first prompt. It's visible now, right?
Yeah, it's visible now.
Right. So what I asked it to do is it created the first level of spec, and I said that I want to focus on Indian stock market, right? So when we went into that, okay, so it told me that it has updated the specificity, and what it does is it actually made changes to those. So view diff, okay, not this diff. This is design.md. Or do I show you the requirement diff? Okay. Yeah. So if you notice, this is the first time it was writing. So basically, on the basis of small change that I asked it, right? So it made so many changes. I don't know how to show diff on that. I'll show you, but basically what it did was, you have two options. Either you can ask it to make changes, or you can straight away go here and make changes yourself. I'll show you. It's the same process when we do design also. It's just completing the design. Okay. We'll wait for it to complete the design. Yeah. Here we can see. You can see it, right? So when we started, I had asked it to do this way. It changed for the Indian stock market in the subsequent. It removed this line. This is the diff, right? Then it moved this part. So basically, basis my instruction to map it to Indian this thing, it removed these items and then it added the items in green. Okay. This is what happened in the first shot. I'll close this diff. Okay. Then I asked it that, okay, I'm okay. I accepted those change, and it asked me that should I proceed to design? I said, okay, move ahead. And then, that's how this thread started. Now it has written that design section. So I'm going to review that design section now. Okay. And again, design section also, you can decide what you want. So this is the design. I'll do a right click here and I'll say that I want to read it in preview. It's just a markdown file, but it makes it much more easier to read, right? So it says that, we are looking for a single page stock recommendation. So what we have done is we've already done requirements. Now we are doing design, right? So it says that basis the requirements, it's doing this. This is the structure, how you want the components to be organized. So it's saying that, in the header, there is a search bar. There is a main content, rating gauge, price chart, mock data layer, right? We can make changes, but yeah. Technology stack, we can make whatever changes we want. Charting library, whichever you want to use, CSS, whatever, right? It's so notice two things. A, it's making recommendations. If you're not happy with the recommendations, you can make changes. So user input, search bar, mock data provider, rating gauge, price chart, UI renderer, right? Then it's saying that what are the different interfaces that it needs, what is the behavior that you're expecting, right? Display the enlist rating as a large color coded visual element. You can specify, right? So if you notice, it's writing down all the specs for us, right? So it's saying that mock data set. This is another problem, right? When you do a design. So now what can happen is, let's say you are building it for someone, right? If in the earlier example of what we have, right? Let's say you wanted to take feedback from someone. You have this thing, but it's not even as per your expectation. A, it's difficult to change. B, let's say you are building it for somebody, right? And you take this for review. It's very difficult to get that review done, right? You'll get a lot of feedback. And plus, you don't know how to incorporate that feedback logically. Here, when you go and for a review with someone, right? What you have is you have different layers. If you want changes to the requirement, let's say it will flow down to all the layers automatically. So it's a more planned, more organized change management approach. Because remember why we are doing all this, so that we can fail fast, right? We can experiment better. So it has even added mock data set here, right? Saying price generation. If you notice, it has already decided in its mind that what is the stock data model you want to use, what are the validations you want to use, correctness, and then these are the different things that it's asking that it will validate. So notice the granularity, and then see traceability. It says that with each one of them, I have reference to the requirements that I have, right? What is the error handling that you want? What are the data errors and everything, right? Now I can also, and then how unit testing will happen. What is the testing checklist, right? Styling this thing. Now let's say I'm not happy with the styling that it has proposed, right? So it has chosen a dark layout, right? Let's say I don't like it. I go to dribble. Right. So if I go to dribble or any other website, you can just ask it to do a theme. I'm showing you how easy it is to navigate. Let's pick up something, right? Which one do you want? This looks good. Very tricky, very complicated. Correct. So let's do this. Yeah. Let's say that I want a theme inspired by this. For inspiration. And then see what I'm asking it. I want to review the wireframe. You all know what a wireframe is, right? And design before we execute anything, right? So I'm bringing even more predictability into the process. Okay. So it has made changes to requirement. I have to give permission to run. I've asked it to go to dribble. It has made, yeah. So it has find out. And see, it has made, okay. And you can see what it is doing. So it's trying to find out what we are using. Okay. It didn't pick it up. We will give it as an inspiration in different way. What happened? Copy. So here is the design for inspiration. Okay. See, it will follow that grind. That's the beauty of it, right? So if you ask it to make some changes, it will first make changes in requirements.md. It will show what changes it is doing. View diff. See, I asked it that, I want a responsive layout. It would make changes. This is the new things that I am asking it to do. And then it will make those changes in the design also. Let's see what is the design if it has made changes. So I asked it to do a wireframe, right? View and preview, easier to read here. Let's see. There should be wireframe somewhere that it would have updated. Yeah, that's done wireframe, right? So basically it's allowing you to visualize it better, right? It's saying that Reliance Industries and price trend will be side by side. So I'm not happy with the layout wireframe, right? You want more things? So we can make changes. What do you want? We can make main content and price trend, right? Let's say in the wireframe, I want key ratios to be mentioned. I also want explanations from Gemini to be available for easy understanding side by side, right? So the layout will have the Reliance recommendations, um, price trend on the left and on the right, key analysis supported by Gemini for easy human readability, and the ratio slash on the bottom. Update requirements slash design as required. The screen is visible now, right? You guys can see I'm actually forcing it. So step by step I'm going, right? I got a new idea. I have not gone into execution. I looked at the design, how it's thinking. I realized that this is not working well. I need more information on the right. I need ratios. So I'm asking it to make changes. So it will identify those changes. I looked at first, it's saying that I'll update the requirements. So it went to the requirements document. It's making changes in the requirement, saying that we need key ratio, we need Gemini analysis, left panel, right? So it is working. So first, it didn't jump into execution. Second, it made changes. So it's allowing me to understand what it will change and then helping me work better, right? Now it's, if you notice, by the way, Kiro allows you 500 credits, uh, for free when you start. So it got 3 new requirements: key financial ratios, then it says AI powered analysis, then saying layout structure, 3 section layout, left panel, right panel, bottom section, left panel, right panel, bottom section. It says it has updated. So does the requirement look good? I'm saying yes. Move to design phase. Now it will make changes to the design. Okay. Let's see what changes it brings up in design. Waiting, yeah. So it's making changes. Let's see what changes it does. See, notice how it has changed the architecture also, because I'm moving into an elevated design, right? So it says that no, 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 now you need multiple layers. So state management, data fetching, formatting, it knows that you need Gemini API interface. It has changed left panel, right panel. It has put ratios here, right? Gemini analysis on top, AI explanations. Okay, let me open it in a viewer mode. Still making changes. Is there anybody in the group who has done vibe coding? You can put on the chat or on the Q&A. Has anybody tried it doing themselves? Has anybody done spec-driven development? Sorry, you would be feeling bored. But for those who have not done it, at least hopefully I want to show you that how fast it is. Okay, still making changes. You can follow if you want what changes it is doing, but yeah, get an idea. So next step is we'll have to go to tasks after this. So it will break this requirement and the design that it has done. Similarly, how we used to do in traditional development, right? But we'll do that. Yeah. Was there a question? Something?
Yeah, hello. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, I was saying that I have used cursor.
You've used
Hello?
cursor? Mm-hmm.
Sir, hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, myself Abhishek Bhattacharya. Sir, I have used anti-gravity. Sir, is it a spec-driven or sir vibe?
No, it's vibe. See,
Okay, sir.
nobody. Okay, you can force. See, by default, most of the tools will start helping you with spec-driven development. Even Kiro, right? Kiro allowed you to do both. It's more of the discipline that you follow. So eventually, last time I checked, anti-gravity was largely a vibe. AI Studio, you can build an app which is vibe, but eventually, all of them will allow you. But it's more like a discipline that you follow more than anything else, right?
Sir, in anti-gravity also I can do spec, right?
Yeah, most of the tools will allow you to do spec nowadays.
Okay, sir.
So I have one question, sir.
Go ahead.
Like here we are giving the instructions to write the requirements, right?
Mhm.
So in the when there was no AI, so we were writing so many pages by ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Doing the things like we do in the projects.
Hmm.
So it's converting that. I think it's not a one day task. It takes a lot of months to make those requirements, and now we are doing in an instant.
Yes, that is one, right? See, okay, you have an idea, right? Now there are two ways of working around that idea. In an enterprise, in your office job, right? Nobody will want you to quickly do stuff, right? If you quickly do stuff, then it becomes an issue, correct? So what we used to do is, we will spend time. So what you are doing is you are thinking beforehand. Like I said at the start of the deck when I was talking about the concept, right? It was very difficult to change. It was expensive to change, right? So you put that your time and energy, right? There. Now, what started happening is when these new tools came, see, it's the same AI. I'm just forcing it into a discipline, correct? I'm just forcing it into a discipline. So yes, you are right. The thinking or the process that would take time. Now you can do it much, much faster and you can collaborate on this. Now it's the same tool. Similar to, you need not have your prompt organized like this, right? You can straight away say a prompt, but then it will not work. So the whole point is don't forget the discipline and the good things that were there in the previous thing. And with spec-driven development, you can bring the same discipline here. It has also done the tasks. Meanwhile, guys can ask questions. I'll go to tasks.
One question I have.
Go ahead.
Can I have? Yeah. For example, I have been using cursor, and we can separate commands. Like, for example, there are different teams for APIs and other for designs. So those commands we can just add those commands and tell that I will be writing these APIs or these things. So only constraint within that. So here also we can differentiate like.
You can do. So you can integrate it with a version control. So for example, I can push this into my repository if I want. Okay. So it's just one command. I can. You guys know GitHub, right? So so what you're talking about is how do multiple people work, right? How do I work on a module? This thing, right? So I
No,
can.
actually, like a different teams which is only working on the API, so it shouldn't touch the design parts. So like
For example, in this case, okay, let me write it down for you. You'll get an easier. Assume that the API for Gemini is
So like how the different modules will be integrated after the different teams have generated this code, sir? Here.
exactly what I'm saying. No? Let's say that this Gemini API that it has asked, that I've asked it, right? That is available already, right? And the endpoint requires all the information on the. So there are two problems, right? Okay, let me draw it for you. It will become easier. Okay. See, when you have to, let's say this app, right? Whatever stock recommendation app we are doing, the screen is visible, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is visible.
What you're saying is, let's say there is this is the module that you're building, correct? Now you have a Gemini. Let's say there is team B, which is implementing the Gemini explainability API, correct? This is your question, right? You don't know what they're doing, right? Now, for you guys to talk to each other, you would need some contract, right? What is the contract? Contract in most scenarios, you guys will agree on an API spec, correct? So what will I give from here? Correct? So that you can do an implementation. So here also you will have a front end, you'll have a back end, correct? So your back end will use this API spec to call this service. That's how it works, correct? So you have a two-way API that you will use. So what you can do is, right? So two ways can happen. One, let's say these guys already give you an API spec. You can pass that API endpoint or Swagger to when you are doing this thing, in this case to Kiro. Or you can ask Kiro that, I want to integrate from a API that is given. Can you help me write a spec? That's what I'll ask you, right? That's what I'll ask, right? Assume that the Gemini explainability service will be implemented by a separate team. Help me write a API spec, right? API spec that I can share with them. See? Now this is where the confusion starts, right? Who will write the spec? What will do? Because you are designing your own app, right? You can do this spec, or you can say that this is the spec. So right now, what I'm assuming is we will write the spec and give it to this team. Otherwise, if this team already has a spec, you can give it to this guy and ask it to implement. So let's see. So it's saying that I'll write this file. So see, first thing you notice, it wrote a requirement that this service will come from outside, which is equally important, correct? Then see. And it's writing a spec. Let's read what it's done. And you can change the spec also. That's the beauty of it, right? So it's saying that the specifies the API contract, bearer, okay, replaced with actual production URL. Open preview, right? So API key, bearer, give me the endpoint, post log analysis. I'll give you this information. I'll give you the ratios. I'll give you the price history. Based on that, see, look at the quality of the documentation, right? Success 200. Okay, so it has already given you a dummy API. This thing, you can just take this documentation. What are the error codes that you want, right? And you can just give this to the other team that is implementing, so that they stick to your this thing. This is a sample curl, right? What else do you want, right? So basically, it can help you plan your integrations better. And similarly, if you want to wrap your own, your app also as an API, you can ask it to write a spec. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's say
And meanwhile, do we need to review each and every step, or we can only see the output, and if output is okay, then everything is fine? We can assume that.
if you assume that, you are going to make the same mistake that
We
was
need to
happening.
review also, right?
Of course, see, you don't need to review everything, but it always helps to understand where you are going, right? For example, these are the tasks. I mean, I can ask it to, it's waiting that, okay, it's saying that keep optional tasks, make all tasks required. So I'm saying that you go, right? So as per its understanding, it has done. You can press a button, it will start executing. But the point is, do you really want to do that? Understand, know first what it's going to do so that you can make changes. So if you notice saying that I'll do project setup, which is okay, TypeScript, mock data store. If you don't want this here, if you want to change the sequence, you can do that. So the whole idea is you understand better and you'll have better control when you follow this grind and this discipline. Okay, so don't follow it blindly is what my recommendation is. I don't do. I build much more complicated projects nowadays. But yeah, the good point is that follow the grind, read what it is doing, how it is doing, so that you can influence and change it. And once you want to start executing, you press this button and then it will start. So see, saying that start task and saying that I'll first do the search bar implementation, rating gauge. We can also ask it to do a prototype for us. Okay, I want to see a prototype done first before we implement anything. Okay, so it says that let me create an quick HTML CSS so that you can see before you build the full React application. Notice that it is planning to build a complete React application. So I'm saying that give me just this, no? And full referenceability here to all the requirements. So it's stitching the gap. That's all. And then it will build this prototype. We'll see this prototype once it writes. And then when you want to get into execution, we can just execute. Okay.
By clicking on the start icon, right?
Yeah, I'll just do it. Let it complete the prototype. I'll show you the prototype and then we'll run. Hopefully we'll be able to complete it. Otherwise, what I can do is I can put it on a repo and make it public.
GitHub.
You guys can play with it if you want. Chalo, I'll show you this also, how we push the code, okay? So prototype.html, it has written, no. Okay. We go here, we ask it to open. Okay, file, open file. Index.html, Kiro, IoT2, prototype.html. So let's say, so see, much more organized, right? And you can make changes when you want. Something it still didn't do. I wanted it to contextualize to India, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's not done.
Yeah, we can ask it to make changes, but let me first show you something important. I want this to be contextualized. See, what has happened is you have to understand the context window. No? It cannot hold, right? So we have to see that contextualized to Indian
Stock market.
It is not yet implemented correctly. Refer to requirements for details. Hello. But I want to show you the task execution also. We have only 15 more minutes. After that, I'll jump there. So basically, you have an idea what it is building before anything gets built. Okay.
Yes, sir.
and then we'll ask it to run the tasks.
It's just like we have option in Grow app where earlier it was showing like at this price we should have a, what is the possibility? Should we sell, hold, or buy? So that kind of option was visible.
So you can create whatever you want, right? See, it has made those changes now. I mean, it's up to you to decide what you want, right?
Yeah, and how we can like see how much reliable are the results.
No, I have not implemented anything. Dude, understand the difference. I'm just doing prototyping right now. We've just done the design. We've not implemented the app at all. This is all dummy data, if you notice. See, what I'm showing you is not how to build the app. We've not built the app. What I'm showing you is, when we were doing vibe coding, what we built was okay. You remember where we started from? Open file. What I'm showing you is if you don't give the specs properly, what it will implement. See, initially it implemented this for us, correct?
True.
Right? What we are asking it to do is work logically, make changes so that we have a reference. So, we have not implemented the logic. I've just done a prototype. But what I'm showing you is the difference between the two processes, right? How you work, how you organize. So the idea is not to build the app. The idea is to make you guys comfortable with the process. Okay. Now let's say that you run all tasks. If you notice, what will happen is it'll go okay. So it will create those tasks now. See, all the tasks have become queued. So now it will actually create the tasks. And for those guys who can code, you can see the discipline and grind that it follows, right? So it's doing this task. It will now actually create the proper code.
Hello. Sir, I was asking that I have used many AI tools like Replit, Blink, and Cloud also. So, sir, which AI tool is best for vibe coding?
All of them are good. The whole point of this session is to share the fact that if you do vibe coding, none of them are good. Okay. If you do spec-driven development, with the same tool, you can work much better. Right? So don't do vibe coding is all I'm saying. Please do spec-driven development. Follow the paradigm. If you use any of the tools, see the whole idea is, if you notice there, this is the beauty of it, right? Claude Opus 4.5 is, for example, the best model here, right? Compared to other models, and if you notice, it's 2.2x times compared to auto model, which is 1x credit, right? So the point is, it's not about the tool, it's about how you use the tool, and hence the session. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, sir. Thank you.
Okay, it'll keep on running the tasks now. So there's not much. If you want, you can follow what it is doing. Once it makes changes, it will put it here. But right now, it's just writing the code. It's installing White. Okay, so to summarize and to go back, right? While it runs, we can come back here. What's essentially happening is, where is my other window, right? So what we started talking about is this way of working, right? So we are saying rather than prompt to code, we go through this systematic thing. So we do specifications, so we do requirements, we do design, then we plan, and then we code, right? So Kiro allows you to do both, like most of the other tools, right? But the vibe coding is fast, fluid, chaotic, good for prototypes. I even don't consider is good for prototypes. That's why I showed you, right? This is more organized. This is how you can do even a better prototyping, right? And people say that you can do high velocity vibe coding. My idea is this is how it works, right? So it goes from here straight away into Kiro to writing code. Not a great form. I mean, I don't see any value in doing it, right? But this is the model that we are following, that we run tasks. So we say that this is what we want. We write a requirement, then we write a design, then we write an implementation plan, and then we do a final code, right? So what is happening is, if you want to do a structured way of working, you are going. This is the recommended cycle. Have some idea, quickly wipe. Don't spend a lot of time here. If you don't do this, it's okay. You can straight away go from solidify to harden. That's what my approach is, right? Context decay is one of the big problems that we are trying to. So this is how context decay works, right? So you have a long chat, this goes away. Kiro handles this automatically. Maybe even in this show, right? When there is too much of information that comes here, oops. What it will do is it will open a new chat automatically, right? So if you notice, yes. So if you notice, it has started task automatically in a new window itself, right?
So that's why you mentioned earlier about the Indian market, but it again went back to the world market.
And that is one of the reasons. Those are the problems that happens. But see, that somebody asked the question, no, that why? I mean, do we need to read? These are the reasons for which you need to read, right? So that it makes it easier for
Yes,
you
sir.
to catch those mistakes. It's not perfect, but it's very, very good, right? That's how I put it. Okay.
So it is just like giving 90% of idea and 10% we need to do, see and review and
Not idea, but execution also, right? And you can influence how it works. See, it's like you have a developer who knows everything.
right. But we need to utilize his
They have
knowledge.
come out of college, right? So what they will do is they will work like this, no? So vibe coding is like you tell them one line, they will do the whole thing. Then it will not be correct. Spec-driven development is more like you tell them why we are doing what we are doing. This is how we'll break up the task. This is how a team lead allocate. So every developer can become a team lead, right? When if you follow spec-driven development, right? And then it brings back that traceability, right? So if you notice, you know when it was looking, yeah. And this is more important if you understand, right? When we were doing spec-driven development, right? If I go back to this slide, right? This is what we were doing. We were jumping from prompt to code. If there was a problem, we were trying to fix it, right? And then this is what was happening. But if you look at spec-driven development, what we are doing now is, which makes all the difference, right? So if something fails, right, what we are saying is agent goes back to the spec, right? And then it corrects itself on the basis of spec, right? If logic is wrong, we refine the requirement. So we have this context which is continuous. So that's how we ensure that the context never gets away, right? So the specs become holder of that context. So rather than having fluid context, right, you have context which is bound by them. So yeah. So in manual SDLC, humans were writing spec and code, correct? We had high control, we had low speed. In vibe coding, when you do, right, human writes prompts, AI writes snippets, so it's fast. You know, hello world, you can write very fast. But when you are writing a proper this thing spec driven development, right, we write manage intent spec, right? So if you notice, we are not writing, we are managing, right? Agents manage implementation. So we play the role of an architect, right? And then that's how we get a much better code. So the new role of developer is more around, you know, managing these markdown files, how the system will think, how the system is behave. So the value is derived from the clarity of specification, not the volume of code, right? Earlier it was. So the point is, you know, we got from waterfall certainty to agility, correct? Then we got into vibe coding. And now we have gotten into a balanced state, right? So the whole is waterfall was good. Agile gave us speed, but then, you know, we lost that certainty. Vibe coding gave us false speed, right? SDD, spec-driven development, is restoring the balance. The spec is still the truth, right? We have to keep on, even Kiro, right? I have to force it to go back, update those specs, update those requirements. You know, sometimes it forgets to do that, but it will try to follow it, right? So hence, you know, what really helps is if you follow this process. So we are moving away from a world where developers, you know, largely remember syntax. You don't need to remember syntax. But what we are saying is your real strength as a developer is more around, you know, your ability to articulate system thinking. And that is what is happening here, right? So it's just doing implementation now. We don't need to do this legwork, right? If you notice, what it is doing is it must be writing some files. It will just initialize, download, now keep on running things. These are not the things where I am good at, right? For example, I've never coded in React. If you ask me, right, it came much later. But now if I want to do development in React, you know, it's very easy for me. When I know the intent, I'm good at solutioning. Those are the parts, those are the specs that I control. The rest of the legwork these guys do, right? It'll take some time. I don't think so we'll be able to finish in time, but yeah. So it's doing those tasks. Oh, so it was take care. Use roll down void experimental. No. Install with npmm start now. Yes. So it has brought up 5173 is where it will run it, which is good. Okay. It knows that I will use some repository. Okay. So it is working. But anyways, I mean, it's just a matter of validating now. So couple of key takeaways, like I said, is go back to the grind. When you are making changes, ask it to update requirements, design task list as required so that it has a context. And even when, the context rolls over, it goes over to this and can verify, right? So that's the critical part of it. So follow it that way. If you notice, it would be making files and folders now. If we go to folder, see, it is creating those packages stuff now. So yeah. So task 1 is in progress. It has read these files. So every time it will start by reading these files, right? So yeah. Any questions? Anything? Last parting thoughts? Anything you guys want to know? I'll push this code once it gets there. You will need the repository. So this is the repository. Let me make it public if it's not public. Settings. Where is the public option? We are so used to working in a private mode. I'll set it up. Yeah, it's already public. Good. So you can look at the no. It's called this, not this. I'll put it on the chat. Okay. I'll create this because I'll have to change the key. I'll put it on this thing on your Q&A. You can pick it up from there. Okay. Any other questions? Anything? Once it is done, I'll post this, guys. Okay. Okay. That's all I had, guys. It'll take some time to run it. Once it runs, I'll send it to you guys. Thank you for your time. That's all I had for today. I hope it was useful.
Okay, so thank you for joining today's masterclass on spec-driven development. We discussed how shifting from coding first to spec first thinking helps you work more effectively with AI, reduce confusion, and build clear, scalable solutions using tools like Kiro. Your feedback helps us to improve and design better learning experiences for you. Please take a minute to fill out the feedback form shared with you. Thank you for your time and your active participation. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye. Have a nice day. Cheers.